faster, do you think? A bit faster.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You know, ever since my middle school years, the Beatles have always seemed to have a major part of my life. Some of my favorite memories, hell, some of my favorite pastimes also now involve works of the Beatles. Okay, look, I know this looks bad, I know. From the music I listened to the way I dressed, to the things I'd spend my money on just to collect more of their albums. Hell, to even discovering the incredible films these guys had. Fans of mockumentaries, such as The Office, can thank A Hard Day's Night for that one. To watching endless documentaries on them, not just learning about the influence they had on the music industry, but in film, fashion, to even politics. These guys were legendary, and I was eating it all up. But then December of 2020 came, I was in bed dying with COVID with the rest of my family. But that didn't fucking matter because director Peter Jackson had just given us a sneak peek at the Beatles documentary that he'd been working on for years. And to also announce that it would too be delayed thanks to the pandemic. Great. But that 5-minute little preview made it more than worth the wait. Seeing, believe, lost behind the scenes footage of the making of Abbey Road and Let It Be, restored in 4K, it made it worth waiting a few months. But holy fucking shit, what a nightmare to wait for an official release date. After patiently waiting months on end as the film continued to get postponed, then postponed again, until we finally got an official fall release date. But no longer in theaters, no. Apparently now for a 6-hour miniseries to be streamed on Disney fucking Plus. But after a Thanksgiving confirmed release date and a shit ton of sneak peeks, Peter Jackson was finally able to release his now titled series, Get Back, on Disney Plus. And my life with the Beatles had changed once more. Rewatching the documentary on multiple rewatches, watching it every morning and every night I went to bed. Watching the band's final year, now restored in 4K quality, is just something that I never deemed possible, and I just can't stop watching it. But as much as I've fallen in love with the miniseries, I never reviewed a documentary, let alone a docu-series. So how the fuck was I supposed to review a 3-part docu-series? So with all that, I was just ready to dismiss the docu-series altogether. Until early in the New Year's, we got some pretty major news. Peter Jackson and his team had successfully worked on the original deal that was planned with Disney to get a theatrical release to the Beatles documentary. However, of course, they couldn't make a 6-hour fucking film to be released in theaters, so instead, we got something just as good, maybe even better. They restored the final concert the Beatles ever had done in 4K. IMAX screening. So without further ado, after all these long-awaited months, way too many goddamn bitches, and not enough sleep, the Beatles Get Back, the Rooftop cut, directed by Sir Peter Jackson, is the 1 to 2 hour theatrical cut of the Beatles Get Back miniseries, mainly focusing on the last few days of now is known infamously as the Get Back sessions, which was at the time attempted to be the Beatles' major comeback to touring and announcing major multimedia projects, such as TV screenings and even a documentary in the works. However, at the time, with so much of the infighting and so much frustration amongst the group, it pretty much was already becoming inevitable, showing the eventual breakup of the band. But before the band's tragic breakup in May of 1970, they had decided to pull off one more concert together as a group on the rooftops of Apple Corp Studios, now known as the iconic Rooftop concert. That most of the footage had believed to have been lost for years, aside from the footage we had from the Let It Be documentary, so much of it had simply just gone missing, stored in some vault in Apple Corp Studios. Until Peter Jackson was given permission to make this incredible documentary for the last few years to really explore what it was like to be behind the scenes with the Beatles in their last few years before their breakup. And now, to finally please the Disney gods and to finally give Beatles fans what they always wanted, the team got together, and aside from still getting some footage of the behind the scenes of the making and planning of this concert, main focus is the 1 hour experience that was the Beatles' surprise and final concert as a band, now in 4K, and now being displayed in an IMAX screen. I gotta see this film just a few days ago, last weekend, at a special little IMAX theater in Hollywood. You may have heard of it, known as the Chinese Theater, with my father. So now, without further ado, here's what I thought about the film. Now, as stated earlier, the Rooftop cut is meant to be the shorter version of the Get Back miniseries. And after watching the miniseries for multiple rewatches, I can kind of understand the purpose of its existence. As cool as it would be to imagine a 6-hour cut of the Beatles released in theaters, I don't know, maybe make it into a trilogy. And as much as I really have loved the Get Back series, I literally just rewatched it all over again earlier this week. I could understand why many casual Beatles fans or even new beginners would just simply be thrown off by it. As a mega fan myself, I would more than happily see the 57 unedited raw footage. However, to someone that wants to just simply learn what it was like to see the making of the most iconic songs in history, some of the most iconic albums in history, I should say, and see the conflict that the band had in their final years, a lot of the film really tries to sell the idea of being in a time capsule, a fly on the wall, when you really see the Beatles not really necessarily doing much, but just hanging out, having their jam sessions where they're mainly smoking pot and drinking tea and eating marmalade. And as fun as that could sound, as fascinating as it is to see these literal legends just be relaxing, being human, it does get to a point where, admittedly, I could say there's at least a good hour of this 6-hour cut that could easily have been removed and completely unnecessary to the actual story of the documentary. But after the success in the miniseries during the whole fall and early winter, Disney and their overlords finally gave Peter and his team a chance early this January to finally get a theatrical release of the Beatles documentary, and mainly focused on the Rooftop footage, which was the obvious choice. But if all they really did do for a theatrical release for a Beatles movie would have simply just been restoring the footage and audio of the concert performance itself, it would have been rather disappointing, knowing all the money and all the years that Peter Jackson had to work on this fucking thing. And Peter Jackson knew that and took full advantage of it. To see and explore all the hard work that took place into pulling off such an event with such little time that the crew actually had. People forget, as it's explored geniusly as well in the film, even if it's for less time than they do in the miniseries, that the Get Back sessions were supposed to be the Beatles' big comeback to performing live, possibly even touring, and pulling off a multimedia project that they had less than 1 month to do. The Beatles practically planned the Rooftop concert in less than a week. How the hell did they do it? And Mr. Jackson and his crew explored that beautifully, just with the intro itself. After we go through the brief history and the absolutely beautiful montage that they set up for the intro of the film that they had as well in the documentary, to just seeing the day itself, early in the morning when you see the camera crew and the concert crew be setting up all the Beatles equipment and setting up all across the buildings, you start getting these incredible, never-before-seen shots of the actual and insane hijinks that these guys pulled off just to set their equipment up. Sneaking into buildings apparently across the street, having camera guys and apparently interviewers just down in the streets to see the public's reaction to all this as they started realizing that something was going down on top of the rooftops of London. And then we get to the cinematography. Now, if it's not been clear from my past few reviews and the past few months of this channel, I'm a major supporter of movie theaters. As fun as it is to binge a great show online, or even at home with your friends and family, you just are never going to beat that stadium-like experience that is going to the movies. And Get Back is the definitive proof of that. To witness 50-year-old 16mm footage, upscaled to 4K, on an IMAX screen, is undefeated. Seeing stock footage and lost interviews of crowds witnessing all this happening for the first time, from 16mm footage to 4K on an IMAX display, is undefeated. All of it giving you the illusion that you were there in 1969, witnessing all this unfold, is something that only theaters can deliver. Not to mention the insane sound design that is in this film. Possibly one of the biggest achievements and one of the biggest talking points that has been surrounding the Get Back miniseries is something that cannot be experienced until you actually witness this film in theaters. As someone that has seen this entire series at least 6 times in its entirety now, trust me on this one. Trust me! I have seen the entire series at least 5 times now. But the theater experience is what shall stay with me forever. to see and watch something like that. 53-year-old footage of my favorite band, thought to be forever lost, restored in 4K on an IMAX screen, with all other fans alike, father and son, friends and family, freaking the fuck out at every single stunning scene or just incredible laugh out loud moment, watching one of the greatest concerts of all time. Finally seeing what the film had promised us to do. To take us back to 1969 and witness one of not just the greatest performances of all time, but one of the greatest acts to ever live. And see their vulnerability, see their pressures, see a lot of the fighting that would tragically end in the band's breakup just less than a year later, but see the magic that despite all of that, they put their differences aside and put all of their work and dedication into pulling off one last great show. Now forever restored and preserved for generations of fans to come. Get Back is not just a celebration about the Beatles. It's a celebration about music, a celebration about film, and most importantly, a celebration about friendship, showing the true magic there can be of caring for one another despite your differences, even proving that with enough care and patience, you may just make a little history along the way. I'm going to have to give the Beatles' Get Back, the Rooftop cut, a 9 out of 10. I'm quite positive this film soon is going to be quite important for the next few years for its technological achievements alone. It soon may be one of my favorite films of all time. Hell, it's already one of my favorite music films of all time. There's so many other great ones that I honestly, after seeing a film like this, I would strongly encourage. Some of my favorites being Led Zeppelin's The Song Remains the Same, another one like Queen live at the Odeon, Pink Floyd's live at Pompeii, hell, even the Beatles live at Shea Stadium. Another lost concert, or at least concert that has not been restored yet in modern quality. Give us the Shea Stadium 4K cut. That was my review for Get Back. I clearly have had an absolute blast just showing off my collection alone. Just pieces of it, honestly, just saying. And talking about one of my favorite bands of all time. I generally have just fallen in love and kind of addicted in an unhealthy manner to this documentary for the last few months. All of my friends can attest to that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Did you guys get to see the Rooftop cut? If you haven't, did you know that it's going to be screening across the world in a few weeks by Valentine's Day? Maybe take your date to go check it out. Have you guys binged the entire miniseries way too many fucking times than you'd like to admit? If so, what's your favorite scene? What's your favorite sequence of the entire film? My personal favorite is Heather McCartney with John Lennon. That scene's absolutely fucking adorable. And either way, thank you guys so much for watching. This was an absolute blast to make as a Beatles fan. And just always a joy to see you guys enjoy these kind of reviews. Expect the next review to be coming out the next few months still. Maybe one about a guy dressed as a bat. Possibly. As always, have a lovely day. See you guys.